Hello, I'm Pandora Brown, Family Advocacy Program Manager.
And I'm Kim Tizer, your Family Advocacy Program Assistant, and Pandora and I are coming to you from our humble abodes in Southeast Michigan. And I really thought today we would have matching fireplaces, but the lighting wasn't working in the corner of my basement, so we're on the other side of the basement where you can see my unfinished office in the background. One day I'll be in there, so. But we're happy to be here.
Yes. As promised, today we're going to talk to you about short-term and long-term goals.
That's right. And one of the reasons that Pandora and I wanted to broach this topic is because we really believe that there's no better time than now to tackle some of those dreams that have been stirring within inside of us. If you're teleworking, you may have a little extra time on your hands because you're not having to commute to and from work. Whether you're working in the office still or at home, the current situation that we're all enduring has perhaps caused us to look at life a little differently. Some of our priorities have shifted. Some priorities have come into clearer view for us. But no matter the driving force, start looking forward to the future and begin setting goals for yourself. Now is such a great time.
Yes, I want everybody to consider a couple of encouraging quotes before we get started. The first one is from an entrepreneur and motivational speaker, Jim Rohn. He said, "You cannot change anything overnight, but you can change your direction overnight." How about this one from Zig Ziglar? "A goal properly set is halfway reached." Both sayings inspire us to simply get started with setting our goals. Don't drag your feet. Don't be discouraged because of past failed attempts. Just start.
I think that those are such good words of wisdom. And how many of us do get discouraged because we say we tried to do something before and it didn't work out? Well, that doesn't mean that this time the same thing is going to happen. So the question is, where do we begin? Well, military.com suggests you chart your future with what they refer to as SMART goals. And what are those? Well, number one, we have be specific. That's the S in SMART. Number two, your goals should be measurable. Number three, they need to be action-oriented, and we're going to talk about what that is. Number four, your goals should be realistic. And then lastly, number five, goals that you set should be time-driven or timely. So why don't we quickly take a look at number one, and that is specific in the word SMART. For instance, if you're interested in earning a degree, don't say, "I want to earn my degree." And how many of us are guilty of doing that? Yeah, it'd be nice to earn my degree. Instead, be specific and say something along the lines of, "I am going to get my associate degree in nursing." That's specific.
That's right. In terms of being measurable, that's number two, you need to have time frames, dates, dollar amounts, number of credits, etc., to measure your success. An unmeasurable example is, "I want to get my degree someday." A measurable example is, "I'm going to get my degree in nursing by the summer of 2022.
That's right. You need to have that in sight. Taking a look now at the A in SMART goals, action-oriented. The goal you set must require you to take some sort of action. A non-action oriented example would be, "I want to get my degree." An action-oriented example would be, "I will take 2 classes a semester and pass all of the general CLEP exams to earn my associate degree by the end of summer 2020. Surely you heard the difference in those two examples. Now, this I have to mention is going to take some time. It's going to require a little bit of research on your part to know what is required. For instance, how many courses are needed and which ones do I need to complete in order to reach my goal? If you're trying to lose weight, how many calories must I burn in 1 week's time to shed 2 pounds? You need to know that. How many minutes a day do I need to write to complete 80,000 words in a novel? Maybe you've been dying to write a book for many years, and now's the time to set that goal. It helps to know how long it's going to take to write X amount of words. So do your homework, because this will help you determine what is actually realistic, which is our next word.
That's right. So far we've talked about specific, measurable, action-oriented, and now we're going to talk about realistic. Realistic goals are ones that have a high chance of succeeding when taking the following action into account. Technology, for instance. Do you have a computer or the necessary computer internet access to complete the coursework? Emotional resources. Do you have the support of your family? Lots of us are married, we have children, we are teaching now, our children at home. So we want to make sure we have that support. What we don't want to do throughout this process is overwhelm ourselves. You have the specific abilities required to meet your goal when you've tapped into that. Time. Can you find time during the morning, afternoon, on the break, nights, weekends? Find the right time that works for you. And priority. It goes without saying that if you don't make this a priority, you won't meet it. I'll also add that your goals need to be your own. Don't let anyone else tell you what works for you. You find out what works best for you. Letting others set your goals for you leads to low motivation and high anxiety. Now, we've gone over right now some steps, and we're going to continue, but I just want you to stop and don't get overwhelmed at this point. At this point, you don't turn the channel, because you've heard this before. You've said to yourself, "Oh, I've heard that before. I know all about that." Well, this is another opportunity to begin again. So don't get frustrated with hearing what you might say. I've heard this before and I haven't done anything. Well, just get started. We're here to encourage you today to just get started, because all of us have goals. There is something that you would like to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, and I really like what you said, Pandora, about making goals your own. I think maybe when we were younger, we often took on goals that really other people had for us, and we need to make sure it's what we desire to do.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, speaking of people's own goals, we're going to take a look at some staff members' goals, the Army Community Service staff. We've not seen their goals yet or heard them, but we're going to share theirs, their little videos that they did at the end of the program. So I look forward to seeing what they have to say, what their goals are. Lastly, time driven. We said we were going to discuss that briefly. Your goals, again, according to military.com, that's where you'll find these, need to have a starting point, a timeline, and of course, an ending point. Goals can also be broken down into smaller objectives. It helps to break them down instead of just, you know, looking at this massive goal you may have. You want to make sure that you have achievable little chunks here, short-term goals or steps. These are goals to be accomplished within, say, the next 6 to 12 months. Write those goals down. Have some medium-term goals. Those are goals to be accomplished within 1 to 5 years. And then lastly, of course, long-term goals, and this is where I am not very good at making goals for myself. These are goals to be accomplished within the next 5 to 15 years. And I'm sure it's helpful to have those long-term goals in terms of financial planning. That comes to mind. You really have to have the end in sight.
Yes. Exactly, Kim. In order to ensure success, your goals should be written down and they should be put in a prominent place where you're looking at them constantly so that you can stay focused. And be flexible. Your situations and goals can and will change as life circumstances change. In other words, if your deadline becomes unrealistic, then change it.
Mhm.
I just want to make a comment about putting things before you. There are, we talked in the beginning about quotes, and lots of you may have a certain quote that you put on your desk at work. You may hear something that someone else said that's positive, and that same way is how you can handle putting your goal right before you. There was a movie, actually an episode with Gabrielle Union. It was called Mary Jane. It was a episode that came on television, and she in her bathroom, she used to always put little motivational messages all around her mirror. It kind of reminded me because I used to do the same thing. Put what I would put actually as different scriptures myself around to help me to memorize them. And that's something that she put before her face. Lots of people have, like, you may use your refrigerator and you put your grocery list on there. So I'm just using that as an example, is whatever you put before yourself to help you remember is the same way that you can track your goals.
You know, kind of along those lines, Pandora, I like to read encouraging stories about other people who've been successful at achieving their goals. And I recall years ago, I was working on a book. I was starting to write, but I was really having a hard time finding the time to write because I had some younger kids at home and it was just so challenging. And I came across a story about John Grisham. Many people know that name. He's a very famous
Yeah.
author.
Mhm.
But according to the story I read, in the late 1980s, that's when he first started writing, he was a very busy attorney. He had two young children at home. And so he made a plan for himself to get up every morning at 5 a.m. and to write just one page of a novel a day. And he worked on that for 3 years. So this was a medium term goal, if you will, but he had a plan and stuck with it. And at the end of that time frame, he finally had the novel, a best-selling novel that I read many years ago called A Time to Kill. And I'll add that he submitted that manuscript to 40 different publishers who all turned him down until it was finally picked up. And you may know the story that by the second book he put out, he was able to quit his day job because he was a famous author at that point. But he just tackled it a little bit at a time, a little bit every day, just keeping with those goals that he set for himself. And I just find that story really encouraging.
Mhm. Wow, and how appropriate for this time, Kim, that you would share that story, and with the title of that book, A Time to Kill. Look at us with our staycation in this coronavirus situation right now, and we have so much time to kill. Those of us that are working at home, sure, we have to manage that time, but we're in our own space. And so that again is another hopefully encouraging opportunity for all of us to set goals and to just start checking them off.
I like that.
Yes, this has been another full episode. And as we go, we want to see the rest of our Army Community Service staff and hear about some of their goals that they're working on. Next time, we're both excited, Kim and I, to hear from Army Substance Abuse Program Director Billy Hallmark. If you remember, we spoke of him before in our previous videos, and Billy is going to share with us what he's doing in terms of setting goals, and we may see him making some sushi. Until then, remember, we're in this together, and together we're better.
That's right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi everyone, it's Jenny Downey, Army Community Service Director, and I'm here with my youngest daughter today, Fallon, who is 10 years old. And we're here today to talk about goals. Some people have short-term goals and long-term goals, but today Fallon and I decided that we would talk about our quarantine goals. So My quarantine goals are to reach out to someone every single day and check in with them outside of my home to make sure that everyone's doing well and feeling great. I'd also like to clean one area of my home daily, which doesn't seem to be a problem since we mess it up quite a bit. I'd also like to try a new recipe. So I just recently bought phyllo dough and spinach and feta, and I'm going to try to make spinach triangles. I'd like to play music in my house more often. We have an Alexa in every room in the home, and it seems like the music really does help lighten everybody's spirits. I'd also like to make sure that I'm drinking enough water and taking my vitamins and keeping myself healthy during this time of quarantine. Fallon, what are your quarantine goals?
Some of my quarantine goals are keeping my family safe because it's a really dangerous time outside, and I think it's good to stay healthy. And to keep my room organized because I just cleaned it and we kind of want to get that pattern stuck. And then wash my hands more because I've never been really good with washing my hands, so we're going to keep trying that. And then have a positive mindset about online school because it's pretty hard.
But she's doing a good job with it. So those are our goals for quarantine. We hope that you guys can set your own goals, whether it be for quarantine or for a short-term goal or a long-term goal, because goals really do keep us moving forward. Enjoy the day and be safe.
Hello, my name is Kyle Grosso, and I am the new Survivor Outreach Services Support Coordinator for the Detroit Arsenal. I just recently took over the position from Jenny Downey as she transitioned into the Army Community Services Director position. I've been working at the Arsenal for just over a year, and my job as the SOS Coordinator is to provide long-term support and services for surviving family members of fallen soldiers. One of my goals during the shelter-in-place order is to finish up my last class for my Master's of Social Work degree and spend more quality time with my family, as sometimes that tends to get lost with work and school. Instead of just going through the motions, actually having quality time to spend with my wife and son. I look forward to helping all of my surviving families. If you need to get a hold of me, my number is 586-282-0482, and I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy during these times. Thank you.
Today I thought about the many things in life that I like. Traveling, gardening, family, which is first and foremost, and friends. It is spring in Michigan, although you would not believe it looking outside a window because it's all overcast and cloudy. I am not able to be in the garden, but today I'm happy to introduce myself. My name is Gwen McCarthy. I'm the Financial Readiness Program Manager and the Army Emergency Relief Officer for United States Army Garrison Detroit Arsenal. I look forward to meeting each of you and hope that I can make a difference in your life.